So as Epoch 8 comes to an end, we're starting to look forward to Epoch 9. I'm currently sitting on the Strategy Subcouncil, Government V3. That position goes away. For Epoch 9, the IMC has already been elected, but we're still waiting on a vote for the Community Council. Voting will take place between November 26th and November 29th, and I want to go through some of the ideas that I've had over this past epoch that weren't able to get pushed through, and some other proposals that I already have written up that I've just been waiting for the right time for. And I think I can make a good case that whether you like my ideas or not, I'd be a good pick for this council. I encourage everyone watching this video to go out and vote, but if you're unsure who you're going to vote for, hopefully I can convince you I'm the man for the job. So this is just my personal folder here of proposals that I've written up. The ones that I've starred here are just the ones I'm just going to briefly touch on in this video. So we're going to look at leverage staking your ILV, SILV2 rewards option, my idea for Rails on the fuel, Illuvium partnerships and IP use, account-bound NFTs, purchasing disks with fuel, lending and renting within the Illuvidex, and future land sales. So let's get started with leveraging staked ILV. Now, as the first one I'm showing you, this was not my idea. This was an idea that came up in the tokens thread in the Illuvium Discord by AxeTech. I think I'm saying that correctly. And I decided to try out what being part of this community council would mean. And what this community council should be doing is bridging the community to the IMC and the team. So even though we're going to be going through some of the ideas I had here, when you're going to vote for the community council, you want to be voting for someone who can make that bridge. So take the ideas of the community, put it into a proposal form, and pass it on to the IMC for a final vote. So I connected with AxeTech in the DMs, kind of got a better idea of what his idea was. The summary would just be to create a system that allows ILV stakers to leverage their locked ILV tokens. I'm not going to get too much in depth on any of these. And this proposal should be posted in the ideas section of the Discord. If it's not there at the time of you watching this, it should be up there soon. So Illuvidex, lending and renting. The simple summary is create a lending and renting system within the Illuvidex. This is one of the first things I brought to the Strategy Subcouncil when this past epoch started. Even though it didn't lead to an IIP that got voted on, there was actually a lot of progress made out of this. So we learned very quick that the Illuvium team had kind of put the idea of lending and renting on the back burner, and me bringing this up kind of sparked that conversation again. So I was able to hop on some calls with Nick in the Polemos team to kind of talk through some ideas of lending and renting. The idea right now is for Polemos to handle that, but it's still up in the air on whether the ideas that I was bringing to the table can actually be put together by Polemos. So this is still something ongoing. If I'm not on the council this next epoch, I'm still going to offer, my time and my input on a lending and renting system, but being on the council will definitely put me in a position to continue working on this and actually come up with a proposal that leads to an IIP. So fuel for Rails, this is something that's been big for me. This is something that I ran on for the last epoch. I'm not a big believer in Rails, but I know there's no way it's going to get passed without some sort of Rails system in place. So for this one, the simple summary is Rails should be strategically deployed as a safeguard against extreme short-term fluctuations in fuel prices. However, it's important to note that their purpose is not to establish a rigid maximum price, which is something that I had been pushing for in the Strategy Subcouncil this whole epoch. Some of the members really wanted a more rigid system where there was a hard set price for those fuels, and I just think that's not the way to go about it. So again, this is something that hasn't been put out there yet. I want to put it out there, but as a candidate for the community council, what I want to do with all of these ideas is present it to the community, work with the community to make some changes, alter it, enhance it, so that we can pass this on to the IMC and let the IMC make a decision on this. So SILV2 as an option for rewards. So similar to staking rewards where you can claim in ILV or SILV2, players should have the option to claim in-game ILV rewards as SILV2. Now, my thought process here is really for those people with a small wallet that might have some talent within this game. So let's say you make it onto the leaderboards and you earn, 0.1 ILV. If you can claim that in SILV2, that could get you multiple runs in the overworld without having to pay gas fees. How it's currently set up, you would get ILV, then you have to swap it on a DEX for Ethereum or SILV2, bridge it into IMX. By the time you do that, something like 0.1 ILV is just not going to be worth it. So I want to make it easy for those people who are working with smaller sums of money to avoid the gas fees, claim the SILV2, and just reinvest that right back into the game. Starting with Wave 3 of Illuvium Beyond, discs purchased with fuel. Now, I know a lot of people are probably already shaking their head at this one, but there's a good reason behind it. So Illuvium Beyond is a game within the Illuvium ecosystem. landowners are entitled to 5% of all the in-game revenue. Players will use fuel to purchase discs. So the reason this is important is so that the Illuvium Zero landowners get their fair share of the revenue coming in through Illuvium Beyond. And because Illuvium Beyond is a game, whether some people want to call it a game or not, within the Illuvium ecosystem, the landowners are entitled to 5% of that revenue. If we continue to just purchase discs in ETH, it just makes things a little more complicated to who of the landowners deserves that share of 5% of the revenue. Where if we're purchasing these discs in fuel, then that 5% is already built in and we don't need to worry about it. It'll be the same as purchasing an overworld run in fuel. So Illuvium IP partnerships. This is something that I did work a little bit on with Annie and JP. Basically, it'd be a simplified framework for enabling collaborative partnerships with Illuvium's intellectual property. So the main idea around here is that if a third-party studio wanted to build out a new game within the Illuvium ecosystem, that they could partner with Illuvium, use the IP and the in-game assets to create another game within the ecosystem, or even if it's, beyond the ecosystem like Illuvium Beyond is, that can give more utility to the in-game items. So future land sales. So 20,000 out of the 100,000 plots of land were sold during the initial land sale in June 2022. But the team should establish and publish a plan to roll out the additional 80,000 land plots to give more clarity to the current owners and prospective buyers. One thing that we don't like in, crypto or Web3 gaming is uncertainty. So this proposal doesn't lay out what an actual plan would look like. All it does is tell the team to come up with a plan and to make that plan public so that everybody knows. If the plan is to release a certain amount of land based on daily active users, or if a certain amount of time needs to go by before a land sale will happen, whatever it is, I think the team should lay out a plan and let everyone know so we're not out here trading around these 20,000 plus of land and then all of a sudden we get a new land sale coming that devalues what we have. Similar to that, on the idea of clarity, there should be a simplified framework for determining what is tradable and what is account bound within Illuvium. So there's been some talks about some rewards, maybe trophies being account bound and not tradable NFTs. And then we know the Illuvials are tradable, but then there is a gray area. There was one Ranger skin that you could get by purchasing a ton of discs in Illuvium Beyond, and it was said to be account bound, not a tradable NFT. Now this is one of those things that kind of leads, down a slippery slope. I think it's okay that some things are account bound and some things are tradable NFTs, but I don't think we should just leave it up in the air for the team or the council to determine that on a case-by-case basis. I think there should be some rules set around what should be tradable as an NFT and what should be account bound. Again, this is not giving the details. This is just proposing the idea for the team to come up with a plan and make that plan public. So again, these are just some of my ideas. If you've been paying attention to governance at all this past epoch, a lot of the proposals that went through were governance related. And I'll be honest with you, when I ran this past epoch, the governance part was the least part I was excited about. It was more on the intragame economics and other strategic and new ideas that I could bring to Illuvium. But because of the delay that happened during this past epoch, a lot of the ideas I had to get put on the back burner. Being more front-facing on the community council is going to help get more of these out there. Because a lot of what I heard sitting on the strategy council is that we can't be increasing the scope right now. We need to focus on getting out PvP, getting out open beta. But on the community side, it's more about working with you all out there to come up with these plans, put it in a proposal, pass it on to the IMC, and then let them make a decision on it. I truly think I have some of the most unique ideas to bring to Illuvium, whether it be from the community council or even on the IMC. But I really want to make this next epoch about working directly with the community, getting your ideas drafted into proposals and passing it on. So November 26th through the 29th, I would really appreciate your vote. Feel free to slide into my DMs on Discord or X or in the comments down below. I answer everything that comes my way. I'm not above any of you out there. We're all in this together. We're all going to make it. And I truly want to do what's best for Illuvium and what's best for all of you. So thanks for watching. Catch you soon.